Yo, what's going on, y'all? It's Combo Breaker 99. I am back with another video. All right, y'all. So, as y'all know, we're less than a month away from Rose Namajunas versus Carla Esparza. And, I felt like I haven't been really talking about this fight enough, because we've been having so much, so much going on in the game, so many other fights going on. So I said, you know what, I'm going to have to come over here and do a quick discussion video and just kind of run through a question that's been going through my head here. And, y'all can answer in the comment section on how y'all feel. But as y'all know, it's going down less than a month away, Rose versus Carla. And, of course, the hardcore fans, we all know this is a rematch. But at the same time, we know that this feels like a new fight, for real. Like Rose versus Carla 2 really does feel like it's going to be a brand new fight because first fight, as y'all know, it took place 8 years ago, 2014. Rose was still like 21, 22. Carla was like 25, 26, something like that, And the approach that Rose took in that fight, I mean, I did the live round by round. You don't see her fight like that anymore, right? You really don't see her fight like that anymore. And like since then, both of these fighters, they've gone different directions. Rose has been a 2-time champion, and Carla really has been nowhere near the belt since then, right? So, yeah, it's like a new fight. It's like a contender coming up to fight the long reigning champion or, the champion that's been in the mix for the past 5-6 years now. So new blood all around, right? That's what it feels like. And, I got to say I like this matchup because it is a new look for Rose because now she gets to go in there as the new improved Rose and, see if she can go back and rewrite that wrong, with somebody she shared the octagon with. And, it's because we want to really see her in there with something different. I mean, last 5 years, Rose has really been in there with the same people. She had to run it back with Joanna. She ran it back with Andrade. She ran it back with Zhang Weili, even with Tisha Torres a few years back as well. And, since then, she's kind of been dubbed that rematch queen, right? She's been dubbed as that rematch queen that can go in there and, make the adjustments and defeat these fighters. The only two that got wins over were Tisha Torres and Jessica Andrade, but Zhang couldn't beat her. Joanna couldn't beat her. Honestly, I thought Tisha won both fights, but that's a different story. But anyways, Carla Esparza, man, she's going to be next in line to run it back with Rose Namajunas again. And the one question that just kept running through my mind is, more specifically, not if Carla can do better than all these other fighters, but I was wondering, like, can Carla Esparza do better in her rematch than Zhang Weili? That's kind of like the question. Like, has Carla Esparza improved enough to do better, or has Rose Namajunas improved enough to just shut Carla down or just keep Carla like out of her league, like just make her look like she's out of her league, not on her level at all? That's kind of like the question that's been running through my mind because so much has changed, in the past 8 years. But at the same time, Carla Esparza, she's slowly been grinding. And, this is probably something that she's really, really been wanting over the past 7 years, even though she couldn't get close to it, right? And everybody knows styles make fights. Like, of course, on her way up with a 4 or 5 fight win streak, she may not have looked the best in some of those wins, but who knows what she can have for Rose Namajunas, right? So that's the question for me. Like, can Carla do better in her rematch than Zhang Weili? Because y'all know Zhang Weili, she tried to make improvements in the second go round, but it still wasn't enough. I mean, if you watch the fight closely, you could say Zhang Weili won, you could say Rose won, but it was too close. It was still too close because Zhang Weili never really had a style that could just go in there and agitate Rose and completely dominate at any point in the fight, right? There was still a point in that fight where she still showed Rose a lot of respect, and it was almost still like she was a little bit gun shy, right? I mean, Henry Cejudo, he did do some things for her, helped her address and, get more comfortable with her wrestling. But Zhang Weili, she kind of lacked that old flame that she had that I think she needed to really take Rose into deep waters. It was just that first time around when they fought, that one calculated shot that landed on her chin. It kind of took that, I kind of think it took that fight out of her a little bit. I think it did, So looking at that and then looking at how she went into the rematch, she fought more of a controlled, disciplined fight, which is what Rose likes. It kind of cost her the later rounds. So I was looking at that and I said, Carla Esparza, the way she's been working and the way she's been grinding, can she do better than Zhang Weili in a rematch? And my answer to that is, yeah, I think she can. I think she has that potential to. Carla Esparza, She's been in there with many different styles, and I think that, she's really been improving as a fighter. And I got a few reasons why I just feel like, Carla Esparza, why she can do better specifically than Zhang Weili in this rematch, And one of them is because of tape. She's got a lot of tape to watch. She's got a lot of fights of Rose Namajunas to go off of now, including Zhang Weili's fights. So that's always a plus. Sometimes whenever a fighter goes ahead of you, you get to sit back and actually watch. That's why a lot of people don't like to go first in some contests. They like to sit back and watch everybody else go first so they can see what they did right and see what mistakes they made, so they can kind of build their own system and say, okay, this is how you get across this path or something, you know what I mean, in X amount of time without getting hurt or, getting any injuries, right? So Carla Esparza has that to go on. So she can do better than Zhang Weili if she can study these tapes about Rose Namajunas, what she does right, what she does wrong, all the way back from, her early days to now. But more specifically, her more recent fights. You want to see what makes Rose uncomfortable, the pace she likes to fight, what makes her vulnerable, what makes her strong in there, what gets her amped up in a fight, even like before a fight. Like if you watch some videos on how she approaches the fights, that can really help her. So there's a lot of tape that Carla Esparza can watch right now. And like I said, even with these the pair of fights with Zhang Weili, what got her amped up? How did she take her approach to get in there? What can you do to offset her rhythm? Like what could you say to offset her rhythm, to get her out of her mental game? You know what I mean? What can you do to take her out of her focus? So Carla Esparza has a lot to work with here. Just see what these other fighters did, what she can do, and what she'll have to add to her game plan over the next few weeks. So a lot of tape to watch here. A lot of tape to go on. Even with these L's that she's seen these other fighters deal out to her. What can she do to go back, including her fight? What can she do to kind of go back and repeat history, or maybe trigger something in Rose's mind, where Carla can say, oh yeah, I can do this again, and she's always doing this in the fight. I can pick up on this and I'll do this and boom, I should be good, right? So there's tape to watch. Next thing I'll say that she has that could make her do better than Zhang Weili, of course, is her style. I think her style is more of a style that makes her uncomfortable versus what Zhang Weili had and what Joanna had. I think Carla's style is more of a grinding style. It's a pressure style. It's an inside style. She's a wrestler. She wants to take the fight to the ground. So that's what she's built for, and that's what she has to use to really offset Rose. Because if you look at Rose's past 6 fights, she hasn't really dealt with that on a consistent basis. I mean, she did with to a certain extent with Jessica Andrade, and you've seen what happened. You know what I mean? Fighters that like to go in the phone booth and put pressure on you, that's what she doesn't like. But whenever she fought fighters like Zhang Weili again and Joanna, in those 4 fights, Rose was comfortable. She could do what she wanted. She could box comfortably from the outside. She could fight at a mid-range. They wanted to play chess with her, right? So fighters that play chess with her, that's where she succeeds. You know what I mean? So Carla can say, okay, my style is not like theirs. My style is more in the phone booth, and my style is more grinding, and my style is where I like to be completely out of range until I'm ready to dart in and take you down. Then when I'm on the inside, I'm going to be banging you with these right hands. I'm going to be hitting you to the body. I'm going to take you down to the ground, and I'm going to ground and pound you, and I'm going to wrestle the heck out of you, right? So that's another reason, like when you compare it to Zhang Weili. Zhang Weili, of course, was working with Cejudo throughout her last camp, and her wrestling helped her a little bit, like in the first, round 2 or 3. But as she got down the stretch, I still don't think that she was built for it. That's why, she started to gas in rounds 4 and 5, and you saw Rose Namajunas just lay and prey on her in like round 5, right? Just didn't let her up, right? So that's something that, of course, Carla has to look out for now too, is the strength increasing in Rose Namajunas and the wrestling improvements as well. But I think somebody like Carla Esparza, she's been doing this for so long, it's second nature, and she's been adding power to her game with her striking, and she's been adding strength to her physique as well. So Carla still has that going for her. So I'd say style is a big part here, where she could do better than these fighters like even Joanna and Zhang Weili, because she's going to take that approach constantly to take the fight to the ground. See, those fighters, they wanted to strike with. Zhang Weili in the first fight, she wanted to strike on the outside, which was a mistake. Then you had Joanna, who wanted to strike on the outside, prove her striking was better. And you see what happened in the first and second fight, right? But Carla, she's going to want to do more like Andrade and stay on the inside, try to bang the body a little bit and just get this fight down to the ground. So with her style, I think that's going to help her take a better approach and possibly, do better than Zhang Weili in a rematch. But we'll see. And last but not least, like I said, this is just kind of wrapping it all up. She could do better than Zhang Weili for this reason because of the history. Because of the history, again, this is kind of wrapping it all up. She's faced her before. She has the style. She could look at tapes, like I said. And the fight, the very first fight, the first fight 8 years ago, who knows how Rose Namajunas looks at that fight? Like, who knows what it does to her? I mean, I'm not saying it makes her wake up in the middle of the night sweating or, screaming like, she thinks of Carla is a boogie woman or anything. But I'm just saying, like, it probably is a fight where, it makes her think, it makes her want to overthink at times. And it might be one of those situations where she feels like I got to strive for perfection in this. She said that before that, sometimes she can get into her own head and strive to be a perfectionist. And sometimes that can be a downfall. That's why she kind of has that balance with her, her husband and her coaches, that kind of, put the right things into her mind at the right time to, kind of build a rhythm with her. So I think, with what Carla's been through with her and what she's seen, she could kind of say, again, I know this about her, I know that about her. And if she wants to kind of play gritty or dirty, she can always say, well, I always remember this about this fighter. It's never changed, right? And, she can always just bring up that rematch. And who knows what it'll trigger in Rose. Like, will it make Rose want to fight a more dirtier fight, or will it make her want to just fight out of anger, right? So the history is there. And people don't understand history is a big part of fights with some people. You know what I mean? Like, if you fought them back in the day in the amateurs. I mean, if you look at Antonio Tarver and Roy Jones, they had a long history. And you see how sometimes when a fighter comes back after a long time, it can kind of trigger them because there's something personal that they know about them. You can make it personal, but not always, but sometimes it can be personal. Savannah Marshall and Clarissa Shields, as of recently, they kind of have their little beef going on where a lot of people bring up the fact that Savannah Marshall beat her in the amateurs, and same with Savannah Marshall as well. She continues to try to ride that train, and it makes people, it makes people kind of get with you more on that. But at the same time, it'll kind of make that person that had that history with you, like in this case, Clarissa, it'll kind of make them a little bit more angry to the point where they say it is personal. So, Carla could kind of do something like that. We say we have history. I whooped you before. You're still immature. But that's not in Carla's character, right? So it's more something I think she'll take in more of a mental approach and, just kind of, take what she knows and applies it to the fight on her own. So, yeah, man. But that's just my thoughts on that. I think that, Carla Esparza, she definitely has the potential and she has the tools to go in here and, actually, dominate if she could. You know what I mean? Like, maybe not in a 5-round fight, but maybe as long as that she needs it, maybe get Carla down and, work her for 2 or 3 rounds to however she can get her in a position to submit her. But I just think that she does have that style and, like I said, the skill set that can offset somebody like Rose. Yeah, again, I know Rose defeated some big fighters like Zhang Weili and Joanna defeated Carla. And everybody says Andrade could, just, bury Carla into the ground, which is probably true. But there's just styles that make fights. You know what I mean? There's just styles that make fights. And, styles make for different fights. In this case, Carla Esparza, again, she did something that Joanna couldn't do. And I think it just comes down to how people take approach to the fight. You can't let those thinking fighters sit back and get comfortable. I mean, you have to be in the phone booth with them. That's why Andrade, she succeeded in the first fight with Rose, but almost succeeded in the second fight because what did she do? She said, I'm not thinking. I'm going in here, high pace, high gear, gritty, dirty, like a dog. And I think Carla, she has more of that dog in her than Joanna did with that type of approach. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, Joanna's tough and she's a dog, but this is a different type where Carla knows how to get in there and maneuver. I think she knows what makes Rose tick at times. But like I said, that's just my assessment. That's not my breakdown. That's definitely not my prediction on what could happen in the fight. I'm just kind of answering the question that I had to myself and want to know y'all's answers as well, with this little discussion video. Like, can Carla Esparza do better than Zhang Weili did in her rematch? Is it there? Is the potential there for her to do it? So yeah, overall, I think it is. Guys, let me know in the comment section. I might make a part 2 to this one, kind of going a little bit more of what I've seen with both fighters on their growth and what could offset Rose, what could offset Carla. So we'll talk more, guys. Let me know in the comment section what y'all think. Combo Breaker 99. I'm out. Subscribe. Peace.